When I was working with Curtis and Kubi, everywhere I would go with Ron, people would ask him a question about Curtis. And Ron pretty quickly got sick of this. So
Really?
Ron said to me at one point, he said, don't people understand that I am unable to answer any question that begins with the words, why does Curtis? And I empathize with that because people ask me questions about Curtis. But the same is true of any other host. I can't speak to what anybody else is doing at all. You know, I don't know. 800-848-9222. Let me say hello to Gene in the Boogie Down Bronx. Hello, Gene.
Hello, Frank. It's nice to speak with you. Nice to hear from you, and I love your show. It's a great show.
Thanks.
And I just wanted to ask you this question. You had that doctor on, Dr. Heath.
Dr. Who?
Dr. Keith.
Oh, Keith Abloh?
Yes.
Yes.
And he spoke about Prozac, and he said that, Prozac is a pharmaceutical product, but at the same time, he spoke about like a health food. I think he said curcumin, or curcumin. I was just trying to get the spelling of that.
Yeah, so again, I will tell you the spelling of what he was talking about, but I want to be very clear. I have no idea the validity of any medical information that he was giving out. So whatever you take from him, that's on him. That's not endorsed by me or the station or everybody else. But that supplement that he was talking about was called curcumin, curcumin. It's a bright yellow chemical produced by plants of the curcuma species. It's curcumin.
Okay, great. I have a pharmacy degree. I went to LIU, so I just was trying to look it up, and I couldn't find anything on it. So, like, what you call that? Prozac is used for somebody, I guess, that's schizophrenic, is bipolar, and things of that nature. So I figured maybe there's a lot of things on the market that you don't have to, it's very cheap to buy, and it compares to the drugs that are actually put out by the FDA. So I just wanted to get the spelling.
Yeah,
it
was curcumin, but I've never taken it, and I can't vouch for how effective it is at anything. But it was curcumin. That was what he was talking about. 800-848-9222. And we'll take a few more here. Then we'll take a brief break. We'll continue with your calls, and we have 2 open lines now, and then I'll try and get to your email questions and others. 800-848-9222. Let me say hello to Bambino in Bay Ridge. Hello, Bambino.
Hey, Frank, how are you?
Great. That's the easiest question I've gotten all day.
All that money that Charmaine de Blasio stole from New York City, I was wondering if anybody was looking into that.
I feel like I get that question every day, right? So, and again, I can't emphasize this enough. I never voted for Bill de Blasio. I'm not a fan of Bill de Blasio. I think what he did to the city was just awful. And you want to talk about what his wife did with Thrive NYC. I think that was terrible as well. But, I'm not trying to, shock anybody here. But they did not steal the money, okay? They did not steal the money for Thrive NYC. They misspent the money. They wasted the money. They used it on administrative nonsense. They did not steal the money. If I'm with Matt Blaze, right, and, we have a good 2 hours together on Fridays, right, and we're hammering out our whole parking strategy for the morning, and somebody says, well, Frank stole $100 from Matt Blaze. What does that mean? I think everyone knows what it means. It means Matt Blaze had $100. I stuck my hand into his pocket when he wasn't looking, and I took that $100 and I put it into his own pocket, into my own pocket. Bill de Blasio and Chirlane McCray, horrible mayor and first lady as they may have been, they didn't steal any money. They did not put any money into their own pocket. I mean, that's a fact. If they had put any money into their own pocket, Preet Bharara would have had no problem indicting Bill. which is what he wanted to do. He came this close to indicting him. Now, Bill de Blasio did a lot of things wrong, a lot of things that were corrupt, a lot of things that I think were indictable, including enriching his campaign donors. The one thing that there's never been a credible allegation of is Bill de Blasio lining his own pocket with stealing money. There have been politicians that have done that. That's why it's such an important distinction. De Blasio, they wasted the money, they misspent the money, but he didn't steal the money. And if you do any objective look at the Thrive New York City program, you will see a few things. One is that it really didn't help anybody. The $1 billion that was spent was totally misappropriated. It did not help anyone in terms of mental health or anything else. And two, you'll see that they didn't steal the money. Because if they did, they would have been indicted back in 2017, which is when Preet wanted to indict them. 800-848-9222. Let me say hello to Frank in Queens. Hello, Frank.
Hey, Frank. I think with the recent news about the Supreme Court's upcoming decision, I think there's going to be a bigger divide between red states and blue states than we've ever seen before. And it got me thinking, I'm confident that within 50 years, there will be a civil war in this country. But if it happens sooner and you and I are caught up in it, as a New Yorker, would you support the blue states or the red states? I personally would be happy to become a Benedict Arnold against New York City.
Thank you, Frank. I don't think there's going to be a civil war. At least I hope not. I am not going to take up arms against my city, my state, my friends and neighbors because of some allegiance to some political ideology. And it's funny, the dinner that I was at yesterday was for this book called I, Citizen by Tony Woodleaf, who I'm hoping to have on the show maybe next week, maybe even Monday. But what his contention is that America is not nearly as divided as the media makes it out to be. And really, that's my contention. I don't think America is as divided, even though New York wants different things than Texas and Oklahoma does. I don't think America is as divided as the media makes it out to be. And no, if there was a civil war, I would never fight against New York City. I love New York City. If you see the lapel pin that I'm wearing, well, it's on my jacket. My jacket's in the other room. But I wear a lapel pin on my jacket most days that has two flags on it. One, the flag of the United States, one of America, and the other is the flag of New York State. I think loyalty to your state and your city is so important. And it's funny, during the Revolutionary War, George Washington wanted the militia of either Rhode Island or New Jersey. I don't remember which one. I think pardon me, I don't remember which one. He wanted them to pledge allegiance to the new country. And they wouldn't do it because in their view, Rhode Island or New Jersey was their home. And that was where their allegiance is. And I think that's one of the things that we've seen diminished in the last 30, 40, 50 years as federalism has eroded. We don't see that kind of loyalty to your state anymore. And, in schools these days, when I was a kid, I don't know how it was when you were a kid, but we learned about New York State history. We learned about New York City history. These days in schools, even at good schools, I find school children completely ignorant about New York State and New York City history. And the same is true with my friends in New Jersey. And I really think we need to enhance that love of what I'll call state and city patriotism. And instead, we act like, oh, okay, it's a great thing to be loyal to America, but to be loyal to New York, oh, that's ephemeral. You could throw your state away like you could throw away toilet paper. That's not my view. And again, nothing against people that view that way, but New York is just as much my home as the United States is. So I would never join a civil war and fire upon New Yorkers. New Yorkers are my friends, my neighbors, my family. They're just as much as the United States is. 800-848-9222. This is The Other Side of Midnight. We'll continue with your questions. We'll get through a few email questions straight ahead as well. My friend Obie Murray who is really one of the most prominent communications consultants, political consultants, and crisis communications experts in the world. He was one of the key architects of Bob Turner's win for Congress back in 2011, 2012, 2011, 2012. He first of all, I'm very honored that Obi listens at this late hour. Obi sends in the question, how do you not lose your voice? You talk for 4 hours on air, updates an hour, baby, wife, life, lots of talking, I think he means. And how do cigars impact your voice on air? It's a good question. You know, I try and do a few things, Obi, and I could probably do more. I try to inhale through my nose and then speak as I exhale. And that was one of the things they always said that was effective in utilizing your diaphragm more than utilizing your throat. So that's one thing that I do. And as such, because I'm always trying to inhale through my nose, I'm constantly blowing my nose because I'm trying to keep my nasal passages clear so that I can continue inhaling through my nose before I speak. That's one. Two, and I've hung out with you a couple of times, Obi. You know the story with me. This is not necessarily easy. I've been known to tip back a few. I do try to really minimize my alcohol intake during the week. On days when I have to do a show, it's very rare that I'll have alcohol. On a day that I have to do a show. It's certainly very rare that I'll have more than a couple of drinks. That's number two. As far as cigars go, that's another good question. I try to only do it on a Friday and Saturday, days when I have a day or so to recover before I have to be on air. If I do have a cigar during the week on a day that I have to do the show, I try to find the lightest, most mildest cigar that I can. But it doesn't help. I can tell you, on days when I do smoke a cigar and then have to be on air that day, I don't know how Rush did it, because Rush sounded great. He would smoke cigars during his show and he still sounded great. And you know what? Nobody knows this about Hannity. When Hannity was here, he would smoke cigars a lot. And he gave that up. Now I think he vapes. But Hannity was a big cigar smoker for a time. And he and Rush both would smoke right here in the studio. But I feel it much more than they did. The other thing that I do, that I try to do anyway, is I will always have a water bottle beside me, and I try to stay really well hydrated throughout the day, and that really helps a great deal. I drink, I have this water bottle, which is very tough to find, a 40-ounce water bottle with me at all times. And I make sure every day I fill it at least 3 times. So every day I drink at least 120 ounces of water a day, not including, water that you may get from other sources. So those are all strategies. Minimize the alcohol intake, breathe through your nose, 120 ounces of water a day. And even though I don't inhale cigars, as I think Rush may have, I try to not smoke a cigar the day that I have to do a show. We're working on getting Congressman Boucher on this show, but he was on News Nation, and he said the following.
Big picture. Does the Pentagon know more than they're saying?
100%. 100%. And Leland, it's in our country's DNA not to trust the government. And this is another example why. These are Navy pilots. These are the top pilots in the world. And they didn't leak it, but somebody else leaked it. And for the longest time, they said it didn't exist. And now that they've come forward with these tapes, there's so many of them out there that show, they're flying into the water, under the water, in the air, like there's so much out there. And we need to start addressing it, because if these, whatever they are, have control of the air like that, it's a national defense issue for us.
He also went on to say there's an arrogance in government at that level that we cannot handle what's going on out there. It's a bogus cover-up. It doesn't fit, and it's about power and control. Now, let's put aside the dynamite charge there, the controversial aspect of what he said there, that this is a bogus cover-up. I'm not asking you to weigh in on whether or not this is a bogus cover-up, but I'm going to ask you two questions. And I'm going to ask you to weigh in at 800-848-9222. One, do you think we, the American public, if the Pentagon does have this information and they're bottling it up, let's say it's not a full cover-up, let's say they're slow walking it, do we, the taxpayers, have a right to know? My answer is an enthusiastic yes, we do. But the other thing that I'm curious about is, listen to the quote from Burkett. He says, there's an arrogance in government at that level that we cannot handle what's going on out there. Even before Stephen Bassett mentioned this, even before I played that clip and read you that quote, when I brought the story from Politico to your attention on, I guess it was Monday, I said, why? Why is the Pentagon keeping Congress in the dark? And one caller called in and says, well, you saw what happened. You saw what happened back in 1939, the reaction to the War of the Worlds situation. They saw people panic. We can't handle it. That's essentially what that caller said. And I'm curious, do you agree with Congressman Burkett's characterization of this? That the Pentagon thinks we can't handle this. I think we can. I think we can handle it like mature adults. Do you? 800-848-WABC. Now, we've gone through what Burkett and what other lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are seeking to do here, which is apply pressure on the Pentagon. Aides for Senator Gillibrand, aides for Senator Rubio. They gave statements on Monday to Politico expressing their senators' frustration, reporting that they'd hoped that Capitol Hill was prepared to address this issue. I think we can handle it. Do you? Congressman Burkett, I don't trust the Department of Defense to get this right, since leadership there has always been part of a cover-up. Agree? Disagree? 800-848-WABC. That's 800-848-9222. Interestingly enough, there was another article in the Daily Mail. I believe it was Svetlana that posted it in our Facebook group. She posted about something called the Fermi paradox, which questions why there have been no signs of alien life. And apparently there's this new study, and we're going to try and get the researchers from this study on the show. There's this new study where researchers claim they may have an answer. And they claim, these researchers, that alien civilizations grow so large that they hit crisis points. Aliens may be able to put changes in place to prevent burnout. However, these changes could make aliens even more difficult to detect. So Dr. Michael Wong of the Carnegie Institution for Science and Dr. Stuart Bartlett claim that extraterrestrial civilizations may grow so large and technical that they hit these crisis points, missing the chance to visit new worlds. So this Fermi paradox questions why, given the estimated 200 billion to 400 billion stars and at least 100 billion planets in our galaxy, there have been no signs of alien life. The contradiction is named for the Italian physicist Enrico Fermi, who posed this question back in 1950. So in this study, and this is not science fiction, it's published in a peer-reviewed journal, the Royal Society Open Science, Dr. Wong and Dr. Bartlett, they set out to crack this puzzle. Why? Look, there's got to be alien life out there. Why have we not seen them? And the pair analyzed previous studies which have shown that cities grow what he calls superlinearly, at a faster rate than linear, thanks to their social nature. So this superlinear scaling results in crises called singularities, where population and energy demands supersede innovations, leading to the system's collapse. For example, on Earth, the researchers say that ozone depletion, the escalation of weapons of mass destruction, and whaling could have led to burnout had they not been mitigated. So these researchers suggest that burnout is likely to happen to alien civilizations as well. Quote, we hypothesize that once a planetary civilization transitions into a state that can be described as one virtually connected global city, it will face an asymptomatic burnout. Interesting. So I'm going to reach out to these fellas and see if we can get at least one of them on this show. 800-848-WABC. That's 800-848-9222. Very exciting. We once again have Mike in New Jersey back. Mike, it's been really trying not having you on the line, but I'm glad you're back.
Good morning, Frank. That was my fault. I think I hit mute by accident. I apologize.
I forgive you.
So, thank you. So, I'm calling about the previous segment. I coached youth hockey for probably over 25 years, and I had some great experiences and some awful experiences. And the reason I stopped coaching was because of the parents. A couple weeks back is the time when they have tryouts, and when I was coaching, there were current NHL players, kids playing for the club that I coached at. And oftentimes they might be put ahead of other kids just because they had name recognition. So the one season I picked two of the kids, and sometimes I was told who to pick. And after that, I got a threatening email from one of the parents, and said that was the last time I was going to hurt his kids. And we had to have a big meeting with the board, and they basically told him, you can't threaten our coaches. I was an unpaid coach, and I thought about it after that, and I said, I don't need the aggravation and the stress. And I think primarily the way it is now, how out of control it is, it's a lot of time devoted by the parents, a lot of money. Parents spend tens of thousands of dollars for youth sports. Youth, I'm talking 10, 9, 8, up to 14, 15. They travel all over the place. And now they're looking for, to get into certain high schools and then scholarships in college. And it's not even the scholarship. It's getting into particular colleges based on their athletics. They can't get in based on their academics because all the kids have, 4.0 averages. And if they can bring a sport with them, that's how they get into school. And those scholarships are not guaranteed. It's a one-year scholarship, and if they can't make the team the following year, they don't kick them out of school, but then they have to pay the bill. And the Ivy Leagues, they don't give financial scholarships. It's just basically some aid, but it's mostly you pay the way.
Interesting.
Wow. Yeah, it's.
So, what were some of the the worst? I guess is that threat that you received, where they said that's the last time you're ever going to do this, basically.
Yeah, it was pretty threatening. But I've seen parents threaten coaches. I've seen them threaten referees after games and during games. What they do now is in youth hockey, the referee will eject the parent. They'll stop the game. And if the parent refuses to leave the building, they will go to the bench. You can usually figure out what team they're with. They'll tell the coach you have to give up the parent. And if the coach won't tell the ref who it is, the coach gets ejected, and then the club gets fined.
Wow. My goodness. It's beyond me to think that parents are getting so crazy about this.
It is. I can't even tell you all the stuff I see. They're out of their minds. They scream at games. They scream at their kids. Not all. Most of them are fine. And it's a lot of time and a lot of money. And when you're putting all that into it, you expect a lot of results. And I never had a kid that played the sport, so I was very fair with all the kids. And it was, you know what? In hindsight, it's very rewarding because a lot of kids I coach, I still see them and see how successful they are. So,
well, do you think you would ever go back to coaching?
I can't do it anymore physically. I got a from being on the ice all these years.
Uh-huh.
I got some physical problems. So
Well,
you need to be on skates to coach hockey.
That's what I hear. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. 800-848-WABC. Michael is in the Rockaways. Hello, Michael.
Hi, good evening, Frank. Thank you for your service, whatever you do for the country. You have a great talk, a great show.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's not easy, Michael. Not easy sitting here making jokes and bloviating for 4 hours, but someone's got to do it, and it's my service to my country that motivates me.
And you're doing a great job.
Thank you very much.
Not a lot of people like you are out there talking and bringing the truth to the table, and whatever really we need to find the truth, what's really out there. But my point is, you talked about the UFOs, and we talked about the government and about all what's going on. I think there's something a little greater than all this, that nobody could explain what's a UFO. But what we do see is what we have in America today, a fight of religion. It's more religion. And we see also that the more the government is allowing, publicly to help out, if it's gays or lesbians or anything in that sort, which I'm not against it, but once the government is allowing it and giving it to the table and saying, yeah, we agree with all this, that's when destruction happens. People start fighting with each other. This is what God brings to the world. And UFOs could be something from heaven that nobody's going to understand. But they're going to try to keep guessing it and going around. We're talking or beating around the bush instead of really saying what's really the truth. It's religion. God put us in the world for a purpose, and there's a bigger purpose in all this. We keep talking about how we're going to get back to government, how we're going to turn things around. There's nothing to turn around. Everything God controls. If you believe in God, and that's what it is, He put us over here for a purpose, and there's going to be these fights. And the way to fight it back is to raise religion up there and say, we believe, we want only good, we want to have people to be happy. If you want to be gay, go be gay on the side, no problem. You want to do whatever you want, but don't put it into the government.
Michael,
I'm not feeding it out to our kids.
Right. So, Michael, I'm not, I'm certainly not opposed to religion or being gay on the side, as you say it. But what does that have to do with the Pentagon not adhering to what they're required to do by Congress in giving this information over to the Senate over these UAP incidents?
Let me ask you a question. Do you really believe the government after what we saw the past couple of years? Do you believe anything they say that comes out of their mouth? I don't believe it. I think we're at that point of time that it's hard to believe anything they could tell you, and they can't even explain it. Global warming. What's global warming?
Well, it's the Earth getting hotter.
There's both sides of the table. Some people agree, some people don't. But it's very hard to believe anything that comes out of the government today because it just seems to be a bunch of, they'll make it their agenda, whatever they want.
Debbie, it has been far too long since we spoke. How have you been? It's great to talk to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back on. And by the way, I think I just found a new Debbie song I've never heard before.
Well, that makes two of us. Debbie. Hey, before we talk about movies, a listener just emailed me when I was promoting your appearance and said, ask Debbie when she'll start posting to DebbieSchlussel.com again. I used to love reading her analyses of border issues, law, terrorism, and more. Have you stopped posting to your blog?
I was temporarily. What happened was I had a TV show for a year, ending last year, and when you do a TV show, it takes up so much of your time. Plus, I was practicing law. I needed a break. We are redoing my website, and it will be redone soon. And when it is redone, then I'm going to start posting stuff regularly again. And I now have a very, very busy law practice, so I am going to, once it's fixed, I'm going to do it again. It's just that and doing that TV show kept me from it, but I will be back soon.
What is the bulk of the...
And thank you, by the way, to that person.
I will thank him as well for bringing that to our attention. What is the bulk of the legal work that you do? Do you have a specialization?
Yeah, so right now I'm doing mostly criminal defense. I do, a little bit of everything, but that is the bulk of my work right now. I've chosen to do that because it's more interesting, and I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, no, well, that's great. All right. Let me ask you about before we talk film, what's happening legally. Obviously, the big news this week is this leaked Sam Alito draft decision on the Mississippi abortion case, which essentially undoes Roe versus Wade and the Casey abortion decision. What was your take, not necessarily on the leak, which I know a lot of conservatives have focused on, but on the substance of the decision as well? Did you have a chance to read Sam Alito's opinion or the draft opinion? And what did you take? What was your take on it? Did you think it was sound?
Yes, I did read it, and I do think that it is sound. We have known for years, because Justice Harry Blackmun, who wrote the Roe versus Wade decision, said it in interviews, that he basically pulled it out of his rear end, that it really wasn't based on anything constitutional. He said that there was a right to privacy that covered a woman's so-called right to have an abortion in the Constitution, and he said this fell under some kind of penumbra in the Constitution. And that's probably the first and only time I've ever heard that word used, penumbra. And there is no such penumbra in the Constitution. He made it up. And the reason he made it up is he wanted to give women the right to have an abortion, which some people erroneously call the right to choose, because the baby never gets the right to choose. And listen, that movement does not believe in the right to choose. They didn't believe in my right to choose whether I wanted a vaccine, whether I wanted to wear a mask, even if I want my right to choose to use a plastic straw. They don't believe in. So they're not into the right to choose. And I would argue that that the Constitution has more of a penumbra over my right to choose a plastic straw or a plastic bag at the store than it does the right to get an abortion, and sometimes up to 8.5 months, or even almost 9 months in these partial birth abortions that are still legal in many states and are basically around the country. And that's the problem with the original Roe v. Wade decision. This really was a states' rights issue. It was never something where there was this so-called penumbra that's constitutional. So that is really the essence of what Judge Alito said, that it was an erroneous decision, that it was wrong, and it never should have been decided that way. And I agree with him. And so does the author of the Roe versus Wade decision, Justice Harry Blackmun, because, again, he has admitted, and not even just admitted, he's bragged in interviews that he basically made it up. He said that.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what not only the legal implications are, but the political implications. Hey, another story which I found so interesting, and I was surprised that I hadn't seen it until you sent it to me, because I consider myself, a pretty keen observer of all aspects of news. And this has to do with an actor that I really like, Frank Langella. People may remember him from Frost Nixon or The Trial of the Chicago 7 most recently. He was also great in Dracula, Good Night and Good Luck. He's great in Red Dragon. He's a wonderful actor. He has not only one of those great voices, but just a great look. And apparently, he's the latest victim of cancel culture. What happened to Frank Langella?
Yeah, so I remember hearing some rumblings about this, and I didn't really know the exact story, but I started to follow it because I like you, I am a fan of Frank Langella. He is a great actor. He was on the set of this show where he was the lead actor in The Fall of the House of Usher, the latest version of it that Netflix was making. It's an Edgar Allan Poe based drama, I guess, and he was on this set for 3 months, and there was 3 weeks left of shooting. And the actress who plays his much younger wife, whose name escapes me, she complained because he put his hand on her leg when they were shooting a love scene, which it's a love scene, hello. And they said, well, our intimacy coordinator, which all these sets now have, didn't choreograph a touch on the leg. And so for that, he got labeled a hashtag Me Too person, and his whole career basically is over or at least will be for some time, because we know what happens to people when somebody says, oh, you did this and I'm offended, blah, blah, blah. So the woman apparently left the set, and then he was told that there are these issues, don't come back, and he was kicked off the show, and he still hasn't even been paid, and he's been canceled. So he wrote an op-ed piece in Deadline Hollywood, which originally broke the story, and I think people should read it because he talks about what happened to him, and basically, because this woman claimed that he touched her leg and claimed that this was not coordinated, that he all of a sudden is this great ogre. And, you know, I think that we've gone way overboard. This was a love scene. Maybe she could have said, excuse me, take your hand off my leg, or did you do this by accident? Whatever. He never even got the chance to respond or explain himself. He was just canceled.
Oh, my goodness.
And listen, I can understand if somebody put their hand up someone's skirt or down their blouse. Absolutely, they should be fired. But this is not what happened. They were shooting a love scene on a set where she plays his wife, and I just think we've gone way overboard, and it's ridiculous. Yes, there are some legitimate cases of unwanted touching that should result in cancellation. This is not one of them, and we have to have a sense of proportion these days and common sense here.
Oh, I should say so. I mean, that's horrible. Well, I'm hoping that, in some cases we see a little bit of a backlash against preemptive cancellation. So I'm hoping this is one of those cases, because it seems a real shame that this is happening to anybody, but especially to Frank Langella. All right.
I agree.
We're talking with Debbie Schlussel. You could check out what's left of her website at debbieschlussel.com. There's a lot of people are very excited about the new Doctor Strange movie. I don't know how many Doctor Strange movies we're up to. I saw the first one and I liked it. I don't know if there were others. I know he's in at least one of the Avengers movies. I kind of have lost track with all these superhero movies. But have you seen the new Doctor Strange film? And is this going to be the latest savior of Hollywood?
I did see it. They say that the ticket sales are outpacing pretty much most post-COVID movies. And it is technically the second Doctor Strange movie, I believe, although Doctor Strange was in the Spider-Man movie that is still in theaters that came out in January. You know what I liked about the first, I would say, 20 minutes, and then it just became a mess. I think it's called Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse or something like that. I loved the first Doctor Strange movie. I thought it was really good. I liked it. It was a classic linear superhero movie, a lot different than most of the superhero movies we see nowadays that are a mess, have too many characters and too much going on, and are confusing and nonsensical. Unfortunately, this movie became all of those things. So when it started out nice enough, there is this giant octopus with more than 8 legs and lots of mini legs and one giant eye. I call it a cycloptopus that is trying to destroy the major city that looks like downtown New York. And Doctor Strange has to find out who is behind this cycloptopus, and which is trying to get at this girl who he finds out has special powers because she can go back and forth between different parts of the universe and different worlds and different times. But then it just becomes a mess because there are so many characters and so many different multiverses. There are 2 scenes in the movie that have the guy from Evil Dead, Bruce. Oh my gosh, and his name escapes me. His last name, Bruce. Oh my gosh, and he's from right near where I live.
Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell, exactly. And the reason why it's like killing me that I forgot the last name is that his brother, Don Campbell, is a friend of mine and was at the movie and knew his brother was going to be in the movie, and I thought it was cool. And it's interesting because Bruce Campbell is a classic Hollywood liberal, and my friend, his brother, Don Campbell, was a guard in Gitmo and served in the U.S. Army, career Army person. Thanks for your service, Don. And is a conservative and was a guard at Gitmo and has told me so many fascinating stories.
Well, that is interesting. So would you say that, it sounds like the second one is not on par with the first one, to say the least.
Not even close.
All right.
Not for me. And listen, there was nothing objectionable about the movie. It's just too much going on.
Gotcha. Okay.
A lot.
Fair enough. All right. But maybe if you're a fan of the franchise and you really love the first one, maybe you'll enjoy this one as well.
Right. And one other thing, there are 2 stingers. So, stingers are those scenes that come after the movie ends. There's one in the middle of the credits, but then you have to stay until the very end of the credits, and there's a second stinger, and to me, that was my favorite scene of the whole movie.
No, well, I like those a lot, those post-credit little snippets. So we'll see. I'm not going to make a special trip to the theater for that, but, if people want to do that, then they can. Hey, I know this Nicolas Cage film has been getting a lot of attention, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. What is this film about, and what was your take on it?
I enjoyed it for what it is. This is basically Nicolas Cage parodying himself, and he plays himself. Sometimes there are 2 of him in a scene, and he is in debt heavily, and he has to take this gig that he did not want to do to hang out with this superfan at the superfan's birthday party in Spain. And so he goes there, and he meets the superfan, and soon the CIA is involved, telling him that this superfan is a crime mastermind and an international gangster kingpin, and they're enlisting him for his help. There were a lot of funny lines. I should have laughed a lot more than I did, though. But I did laugh. I did enjoy it. It's a light escapist movie. It's not a great movie. But if you're a Nicolas Cage fan, or if you enjoy this kind of genre where people make fun of themselves, then it's for you. And there was nothing objectionable about it. It did seem to be a little repetitive, and maybe they could have cut a little bit of it out of it, but it was decent. I enjoyed it. And I like Nicolas Cage.
Well, so do I. Was there any political subtext that people should be on the lookout for here?
Nothing like that in this movie.
Okay, well, that's nice for a change. All right, what is The Survivor? That's on HBO Max.
So this movie just came out, and I like this. I'm actually almost done with it. It just came out, and I enjoy it because it's an interesting story that I've never heard of before. And
this is this the boxer?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Tell us about this. I want to see this. I've read about this.
Yes. So Harry Haft was a boxer who boxed in America. Didn't have such a great career, but he actually did box Marciano and so on. He lost to him. He was taken to Auschwitz. Most of his family was wiped out. In fact, I believe all of his family was wiped out. And he was forced, the Nazis saw that he could fight, and they forced him for their entertainment to box different people every week. And they picked out other Jews, some of whom he probably knew, who were probably from his hometown. They forced him to beat them basically till they were unconscious. And the people who he beat, then they executed them. And he unfortunately was forced to do that with at least 67 other people. So he didn't really want to box, but that is what they forced him to do. And it's very, very tragic. Now, his real life story was that he and his brother, the Nazis locked them into this one room to sleep. And unfortunately, there was cannibalism and other things. That is not depicted in the movie. But the story is very, very sad. And he was very sad for the rest of his life. He was trying to find his sweetheart, who he met right before he was rounded off to Auschwitz. He felt like she was alive, and part of the movie is about his search for her. And I just think it's a very moving story, and it's one we haven't heard before. And Ben Foster plays Harry Haft. He is actually living in New York for some of the movie, so there are local ties to the movie.
I thought it might be fun if you were to call in at 800-848-9222 and just said, hey, this is a documentary that I think you should see. Here's what it's about in a nutshell, and here's why. That's it. 800-848-9222. I'm going to give you one. I'll give you a couple now. And these are all documentaries that I haven't seen in a while, but they're all very good. One is a documentary. Now, I realize this is a little self-serving. This is a documentary that I'm actually a producer of. It's on Netflix, and it is very relevant to what's happening in the country now. I think when we were making it, we didn't have an idea of exactly how relevant it was going to be into the future. But it's a Netflix original documentary, and you'll see right at the beginning, producer Frank Morano. It's called Get Me Roger Stone. And if you hate Roger Stone, or you don't like Roger Stone, and you hate Donald Trump, and you don't like Donald Trump, it's still watchable. It's not a love letter to Donald Trump or Roger Stone at all. If you like Roger Stone before this film, you'll still like him. If you don't like Roger Stone before the film, you still won't like him. It's not a propaganda piece at all. And that's what I think separates it from a lot of political documentaries. You watch a lot of political documentaries, and it's almost like they try and proselytize and they try and convince you of something. I don't think we do that with Get Me Roger Stone. And I'll tell you, the three directors of this film, who Roger doesn't speak with anymore, but that's a separate discussion. The three directors of this film, none of them voted for Trump, to my knowledge. And they're all, progressive Trump haters. But it's one of those films where I think people of all political persuasions can enjoy it. I certainly, and again, I know I'm a little biased because I'm a producer of the film, I certainly did. So that's one that I would recommend. If you haven't seen Get Me Roger Stone, it is available on Netflix. Check it out. And if you're into politics or into learning about politics, you're into learning about Trump or the 2016 election or his history with Roger Stone, I definitely think you should check it out. There's so much great footage that we shot for that film that didn't make it into the film. There are many interviews with me that are not in the film. Interviews with Curtis Lewa, not in the film. Bob Grant, Judge Andrew Napolitano, Dan Rather, Tom Kaine, the governor, senior, Tom Kaine Sr., and I'm sure a bunch of other people that I can't think of at the moment. But that's what we were able to do in this film. I didn't have final cut. I would have included some other people also. But there was so much footage that we shot for this over the course of 5 years that didn't make it into the film. It really was, I think it's a great film. All right, well, this is exciting. Thank you, Chris Lipicini. A celebrity edition of the $1,000 Minute. And we have Sid Rosenberg listening on his way in. Sid, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. It's Payday Friday. I'm in the car with the great Fred Ricky Willis from Rocapoco Car Service. On the Gowanus right now, heading towards the studios. And you didn't get a hold of me, by the way. I got a hold of you. I called in unprovoked. I'm listening to your great radio show right now, and I'm going to play the game and get all of them wrong. Every one of them.
These are actually very easy questions. I'm starting to think you're right. Now, you get paid today? Because I got paid last Friday.
I get paid every day. I'm a superstar.
Can you get Fred to turn your radio off in that?
Fred, can you turn the radio lower, because I guess Frank can hear it back in the studio. He's such a pain in the ass.
I mean, it does sound good.
4:45 this morning, and he's yelling at me.
Yes, sorry.
I'm sorry, Frank.
All right, So Sid, now the rules of this game are very simple. The timer is going to begin after I ask you the first question, and then if you get a question right, we're just going to move on to the next question so that you have, we can get through all of these. Okay, you ready to go?
I'm very excited.
All right, me too. All right, name a creature that lays eggs. Sid?
What?
Name a creature that lays eggs.
A creature that lays eggs?
Yeah. Name something that lays eggs.
I just said a bird.
I didn't hear you. Okay. What's the name of the current First Lady?
Oh, that's a great question. Does anybody know? Kamala Harris. No, Joe Biden, excuse me.
Okay, who did John F. Kennedy defeat in the election of 1960?
Oh, my God, here's where I'm going to lose. Who did John F. Kennedy beat in 1960? I'm going to go with, I'm going to get this wrong, I know it. Nixon.
What letter is the Roman numeral for 5?
That's going to be V as in Victor.
What country is directly to the south of the United States?
What country is directly to the south of the United States? What the hell was that?
You're out of time. You're out of time. You had a minute.
Oh, that's not fair. I didn't realize that. I mean, did I get them wrong, though? Did I get all the questions right?
No, that's right. Well, yeah, you did. But again, the challenge is getting them quickly so that we can get 10 questions in a minute.
The host read them too slow.
I think you got tripped up a little bit on the First Lady question and on the Kennedy question, to be honest.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it's funny. When I sit in the car and drive in every morning with Freddie and listen to you, and again, I always heap praise on you because I really do think you're a fantastic radio host.
Thank you. I agree.
And I listen to the game. I'm like, how stupid are these people? And then when you play the game, there is no question there is a completely different level of pressure. No question.
No doubt. It happened with me playing Celebrity Beat Bernie. Believe me, I get it.
Yeah, but didn't you get all 5 right?
Well, yeah, on the second, you know what it is? I botched the first one, and then they had me back, and I think Matt Meany took pity on me, and he made the question so easy that both Bernie and I were able to get it. All right, well, so I'm looking forward to seeing you. You're going to be here soon, I guess, then.
I'm actually still on the BQE. There's a lot of traffic for very early on a Friday morning, but I enjoyed that immensely. I love you to pieces. You've got a great show. I'll see you soon. Thank you. That was fun.
Thank you, my friend. And by the way, so I'll see you in a bit. You can listen to Bernie and Sid from 6 to 10. Their guests include Dick Girardi, Luke Pettigrew from the Giants, formerly. And I think that's it, right? Just the two of them today. But it's certainly going to be an interesting show. Now, we had pizza. Today was pizza day. Even though yesterday was Cinco de Mayo, I was hoping there would be more leftover Mexican food. But I guess this Mexican food was pretty good because I didn't see any leftover Mexican food.
Not a drop.
I saw half a bag of chips.
Let me tell you something. When I come in at 9 o'clock, and I was told, Rich told me that Rich went down there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Rich and Mike Didino.
Rich Radabali
and Mike Didino went down there at 1 o'clock.
Went down where? To the kitchen?
To the kitchen when the feast was going on. He said by the time he got down there, all the meat was gone.
If anybody who cares about this city thinks that this city is going to survive if we let the name of Ed Koch go off the 59th Street Bridge because of a few perverts, then they're mistaken, okay? Who cares about Alan Roscoe and his dead lovers, okay? They surely got AIDS to begin with.
Thank you, Larry. All right. Roger in Massachusetts.
Yes, Netflix, a brand new documentary called 2,000 Mules forensically tracks and traces people who made more than 10 visits to ballot drop boxes during the 2020 election.
Thank you. John in Forest Hills.
Sid, I want to punch you in the face for being so stupid. And Curtis, I'll see you tonight. Wow.
Stacy in Forest Hills.
Hey there, Frank. I think you're the greatest. I went into the city Tuesday with my boyfriend. First time in 4 months. I felt like I was a tourist in my own city. It was horrible. I mean, just walking around just a little bit. We went to this Irish pub with some Irish friends near it. But it's so scary just walking around the city.
Thank you, Stacy. Mark in Rochelle Park.
There's a reason why they call it Beat Bernie in the morning and not Beat Sid. You almost stumped them on a creature that lays eggs. You gotta be kidding me, Sid.
Jojo in Rhode Island.
This is Rojo. I would just like to say, Frank, that Eric Adams is a Christian Baptist who's working real hard, but why is the crime going up and up and up? Don't they respect his independent philosophy on how to govern?
Frankie in Glendale.
This one goes out to the guy making those comments about the Russians yesterday. Hey, dude, get the hatred out of your heart. Get the hatred out of your heart, man.
Mike in Montclair.
Good morning, Frank. Frank, after that last segment of $1,000 Minute, Sid asked more questions than you did. Perhaps Sid is, you finished the sentence.
Chris in the Catskills.
The executives of gas companies made phone calls to their chain outlets around the country yesterday to raise prices during the middle of the day, 25 to 30 cents. The politicians who are bought and paid for by these companies need to stand up.
Steve on Coney Island. Tony in Stanford.
Sid is a moron.
And finally, this was who I heard call Alan Dershowitz the other day. The guy I always confused with Larry in Brooklyn. Charles in Queens. Hello.
That's what I called to tell you. It was me, Charles, on the Idala show that I had a long conversation with Professor Dershowitz.
Yeah, that was a good call. Thank you, Charles. And it was not your alter ego, Larry in Brooklyn. Although the two are frequently seen. The two are frequently mistaken for one another. And to the best of my knowledge, they've never been in the same place at the same time. So you draw your own conclusions. I'm not trying to create any conspiracy theories here, but there are those who believe that Charles in Queens and Larry in Brooklyn are the same person. I'm just putting that out there. Now, you'd stay in touch with me over the weekend. I'll be back on Monday. I've got some fun stuff planned for Monday that I hope you're going to enjoy, and I'll tell you about it over the weekend. You stay in touch with me via email, frank.morano@wabcradio.com. That's frank.morano@wabcradio.com. Also encourage you to join our Facebook group. Not only will you learn of the music that we're playing on this show, but it's a great place for you to sound off on any of the subjects that we're talking about. Just search Morano Radio Fans and Haters, and of course we're on Twitter as well, @Frank Morano. That's Frank Morano. Until Monday, Frank Morano, good day.